If you or an elderly family member has ever received one of those postcards that says, "We buy houses for cash," or something to that effect, then this video is for you. I'm making this video because I hear stories and meet seniors all the time where the emotion of selling their home, depending on what their life situation is, if they are grieving, if they are entering some health struggles, or just the overwhelm of selling a home that they've been living in for 20, 30, 40 years seems just incredibly overwhelming. A lot of times when they receive these cards, that seems like an answer to prayer, right? It seems like a way to avoid all of the heavy emotions, the stress that comes with putting their house on the market, fixing things up and getting it ready. That just seems like a relief, an easy answer. But I want this video to help you to think through that potential decision to see if maybe it is right for you or if it's not right for you. Because ultimately, in those cases, there is a chance that you could lose out on thousands of dollars by utilizing one of these companies. I want to help ensure that you or potentially your parents or other family members do not lose out on thousands of dollars because of an easy or what seems to be an easy answer. The first question we have to answer is, what are these cash buying companies? Like, who are they? What do they do? And the answer is twofold. There are some companies that are investment companies and they will purchase your house with cash. They have a bank account, they can show proof of funds, and that is just their business model. But there is another side, and in the industry we call them wholesalers. And what wholesalers are is they get with you and they basically go under contract with you for your house. This is typically like an under market value price. And then instead of planning to purchase your home themselves, they find a third party. Many times it could be investors. Sometimes they reach out to the general public, the same way a realtor would. And by the end of the deal, they are not actually purchasing your home. They are just a middleman connecting the dots to somebody else. The problem with that is some of them are not transparent, especially with seniors. And they're not necessarily being fully honest with you. And so you really have to be careful in these situations that you don't wind up giving more equity of your home than you would if you would have just hired a traditional realtor. So in the next breath, you're asking me, well, why would that be tempting if I know that I could potentially lose equity in the sale of my home? And the answer is complicated and it depends on the situation for that specific senior. But a lot of times they are grieving a lost spouse. Maybe their house is not updated or needs repairs and they feel overwhelmed, by what it might take to get it on the market. Maybe they are just overwhelmed by having to sort through things and get their house packed up and ready for the public. Maybe they're not feeling really great about strangers walking through their home. And all of that is just emotionally exhausting, especially when you are in a transition, point in your life. So when someone says no repairs, quick closing, that they have cash, that there's no realtor or realtor fees, required, it sounds really enticing, right? It can feel like a way to avoid all the emotions, to skip like the hassle of putting it on the market, and to also not burden your family who might have to jump in and help you. And that's exactly why some of these companies really target senior citizens or those that are at a disadvantage. Why does wholesaling equal the loss of your equity? The answer is pretty simple, But a lot of people that make the choice to do something with a wholesaler don't realize like the gravity of how much equity they are potentially losing. So when you are in a traditional transaction where you have a realtor representing you, you typically will, as a seller, are going to pay a realtor commission. Depends on your state. Here in Oklahoma, it's very traditional for the seller to pay both the listing agent commission and the buyer agent commission, but that varies for your area. And then you will pay your closing costs. And then if there's anything that you have to maybe like fix up that the buyer requests that you agree to, there might be those costs as well. You will almost always get more money selling your home traditionally with a realtor than you would with a like discount wholesaler type company, or even a like we buy houses for cash like investment company. So let's say your home value is $240,000. That's the market value. Now, some sellers, when they are entertaining these companies, they don't even know their market value. And so they're kind of going in blind. And these companies are saying, I'm going to give you $200,000 for your home. And you're like, oh, well, that's like, $90,000 more than I paid for it. So that sounds like a great deal. But what they don't know is that their market value is actually $240,000. Okay. So with traditional, like a traditional real estate, your market value is $240,000. That's what you wind up selling the home for. In this state, like say you're in Oklahoma, traditionally we're going to pay both sides of the realtor commission. So, and then our closing costs, that's going to be about $17,000 or $18,000. So give or take, you're going to pay, let's say $18,000. That is much different than selling your home for $200,000 because you're getting about $22,000 more money in your pocket. That is money that seniors desperately need when they are on a fixed income. They're not necessarily making any more money. That is money that could help them supplement their lifestyle. It could be money that they invest and have more long-term sustainable living. So here in Oklahoma, this year in November, Oklahoma passed some new laws that actually protect our seniors from unethical wholesaling. And I have a cheat sheet because I don't have everything memorized, so bear with me. So the new law is called SB 1075. And this law now requires wholesalers to do the following. So they have to give you a written disclosure, explain that they are not buying the home for themselves. They need to tell you that they plan to resell basically their contract with you for a profit, and they need to give you a 48-hour window to cancel. That way, if you sign something and then you're talking to your family members about it and they're like, whoa, this is not a good situation, you should be able to back out, then you have that 48-hour grace period to do so. Also to tell you to get legal advice. Don't be signing contracts without fully understanding what you're signing. And then they cannot pretend that they are real estate agents. They don't do those things in your contract, then the contract is not valid. So thank you to Oklahoma for protecting our seniors. If you need like a fact sheet on this new law change, there is a link in the description box for you to just kind of keep in your back pocket. And it just kind of highlights what I just did about the new law and how it's protecting you. All right. So here are a few things just to like note to be red flags. If somebody approaches you and wants to purchase your home as like a cash deal. So if they want you to sign really quickly and they're really pressuring you, then that's normally not a great sign. If they discourage you from talking to anyone or to legal counsel, that's also not a great sign because they are wanting you to make a decision in a vacuum and not get input from those who love and care about you or that are there to professionally serve and represent you. If they state they are the buyer, but they're not showing proof of funds, that is also a red flag in any transaction. If you're working with a realtor, that realtor needs to be making sure that the buyers are either proving funding through a mortgage company or proving funds within a bank account of some sort. If the contract states that the buyer's name is going to be added later, no go, no. That means that they are not actually buying it. If the contract is like very vague and short and confusing, typically that's not great either. If they're not using like a typical form, like legal document, if it just doesn't look right, definitely a red flag. If your home is in pretty good condition, like there's nothing like crazy wrong with it, and the number that they give you is significantly below even like a Zillow estimate or Zestimate or whatever we're calling it, if it's below any neighbors' homes that have sold, or like the recent sales in the neighborhood shows, then that's a problem. So those are big warning signs. So what do you do if you're approached by one of these companies? First of all, you're going to slow down. No decisions need to be made in a rush or in a way that's pressured. You're going to ask them directly, are you buying this home for yourself, or are you reselling this contract? You're going to use your 48 cancellation right. If you have signed a contract, you're going to like talk to somebody that loves and cares about you as soon as possible. And if you don't necessarily have somebody that you trust with that information, I mean, just find a real estate lawyer and just give them a call and see if they're willing to kind of talk to you on the phone, or if they would charge you anything for just kind of reviewing the contract. You can also talk to a real estate agent you might know, or that might be a realtor of a friend of yours, and just ask them if they can pull some comps for you to just look at your market value. So could wholesaling be for some people? I would say if you are in a bad situation where there are some serious major issues with fixing it, then maybe that could be an answer for you. I don't want to say that wholesaling is bad for everyone, because I do think that there are transparent wholesalers out there that are trying to help. At the same time, if your house is in decent condition and maybe it needs some updating, maybe it needs some staging, but it's not dilapidated, it's, a decent home, then most likely you don't need to be losing out on that equity. Selling a home at any point can be a stressful situation, especially for seniors. It can feel overwhelming, especially if they haven't done it in the last 20 plus years. And so I completely understand why something that seems like it's going to be simple and fast feels like such a blessing. But please don't let convenience cost you your savings, cost you the equity that you have spent years building. You've worked your whole life for your home, paying down your home. You deserve transparency. You deserve people being honest with you. And you deserve to keep as much as your hard-earned money as possible. If you or your family gets a cash offer and want a second opinion, and you live here in the Oklahoma City metro area, feel free to reach out to me if you want that second opinion. I don't mind pulling comps. I do not care if you list with me or not. I just want to make sure that you are getting a fair deal for your home. Thank you for joining me. I hope that this video was helpful. If you haven't really been fully understanding who these cash for home companies are and what wholesaling is, I hope it was informative. And really, I just hope that it helps protect you and your investment and your finances. Until next time, I will see you in my next video.